"Mom, there's no place for you in this house anymore. Pack your things by tomorrow evening." When I heard these words coming out of my son Diego's mouth, it was as if lightning had struck me. We were in the living room of my house in Miami, now his house. His new wife, Vanessa, stood beside him, arms crossed over her chest, a cold smile on her lips. There were 20 people around us, neighbors, relatives. They had all come to celebrate Diego's promotion, and they all saw me. They all heard me. "Diego, please, let's not talk here," I whispered. "What is it, Mom?" he said, raising his voice. "Let everyone hear. Haven't you had enough of living off our backs for years? Vanessa is right. You're just taking advantage of us. You have your pension. Go live your own life. My pension. $380 a month, less than what Vanessa spent on her manicure that week." All the chatter in the salon stopped abruptly. Everyone was looking at us. I saw Aunt Rosario's shocked face. I noticed my neighbor Elena shaking her head pityingly, but no one said a word. No one said, "Diego, don't talk to your mother like that." That's when something inside me broke. But at the same time, strangely, everything became clear in my mind, because there was something Diego didn't know. Actually, there were many things he didn't know. And soon, very soon, he and Vanessa would find out. They would learn the hard way who the real guest in this house was. I smiled. Yes, at that moment. I smiled in front of all those people, because suddenly everything had become clear. "Okay, mijo," I said calmly. "I'll be ready by tomorrow. But you better be ready too." Diego frowned. "Ready for what?" "You'll find out," I said. "You'll find out. Very soon. My name is Rosa. I am 53 years old, and I have lived in Miami for 30 years in the house I built with my own hands. I raised Diego on my own. Diego was only 5 when his father left us. I worked 3 jobs at once, cleaning at the hospital in the mornings, washing dishes at a restaurant in the afternoons, and working as a janitor in an office at night. My hands became calloused. My back ached for years. But I gave Diego the best of everything. Everything. And now, at that promotion party, in front of all the neighbors, he was putting me out the door like a piece of furniture. But I didn't say anything to him at that moment, because revenge is a dish best served cold, and I had waited exactly 30 years. That night, after leaving Diego's house, my house, I went to Aunt Rosario's small apartment. She welcomed me in without question, opening her arms to me. "Mija," she said simply. She said nothing else. What else could she say? As I lay on the narrow bed in her guest room, staring at the ceiling, sleep would not come. My eyes were open, but it wasn't the ceiling I saw. It was the past. All those years, those sacrifices, those hopes. They all flashed before my eyes like a film reel. The smell of coffee coming from Rosario's kitchen suddenly transported me back to years ago. There was the same smell of coffee in the kitchen that morning. Diego was 10 years old. I remember because that was the year he started 4th grade. I had gotten up at 4 in the morning to make him breakfast before going to the hospital. But the fridge was empty. There was only half a loaf of bread and a piece of cheese. I still had 3 days until payday, and I only had $8 left in my wallet. That morning, when Diego came into the kitchen, his face was puffy from sleep. His hair was a mess. "Mama, today is report card day at school," he said. "The teacher is going to take the students with the highest grades to a pizza party." My heart sank. I knew Diego's grades. They were excellent. They always were. Every night after I came home from 3 jobs, at 11, at 12, he would still be sitting at his desk, doing his homework. No matter how tired I was, I would sit next to him and try to help him. My Spanish was good, but his English was now better than mine. Still, I would accompany him, so he wouldn't feel alone. "Claro, mijo," I said. Of course you're going. But Mama, he said, his voice small, I need to bring $5. The teacher said, $5. I only had $8 in my wallet. The bus fare was $2, $4 round trip. That would leave $4. If I gave Diego $5, I would only have $3 left. How would I get home? But I looked at Diego's face. I saw the sparkle in his eyes. How hard he had worked. How hard he had tried. Instead of playing outside like the other kids, he had studied at home. How could I say no to him? I took out my wallet. I handed him the $5. Toma, mijo, I'm proud of you. You're the smartest kid. His face lit up. He hugged me. Gracias, Mama. You're the best mom in the world. That day I walked to the hospital. It took 2 hours. My feet were swollen. My back ached. I walked home that evening, too. 4 hours of walking, 8 hours cleaning at the hospital, then 6 hours washing dishes at the restaurant. When I got home that night, it was past midnight. My feet were bleeding. I had to wear very cheap shoes, and my heels were raw from walking. But Diego was happy. He told me about the pizza party. He told me how he laughed with his friends, how the teacher gave him a certificate of appreciation. Mama, the teacher said I have the capacity to go to university. University, Mama. Do you know what that means? I knew. It meant that my son, my Diego, a child from a poor family like ours, could perhaps become a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. Maybe one day he wouldn't have to clean. Maybe he could live a comfortable life. That night, as I soaked my bleeding feet in water, I didn't even feel the pain, because I could see Diego's future, and that future was worth everything. Now, remembering that moment in Rosario's guest room, a pain stabbed my heart so hard I couldn't breathe. Those bloody feet, those $5, that 4-hour walk. But what about today? Today, Diego had kicked me out of that house, in front of all the neighbors. You're living off our backs, he said. Was I living off his back? Was I the one living off his back? Or was he living off mine? Who had bled their feet for whom? Tears began to stream from my eyes, but I didn't cry out loud, because Rosario was sleeping in the next room, and I didn't want to disturb her peace. I was always like that. I always thought of others. I always cried silently. The next day, when I returned home to collect my things, Diego wasn't there, but Vanessa was. She was sitting in the living room with her legs crossed, looking at her nails. Rosa, she said, without even bothering to pronounce my name correctly. Pack your things and leave the keys. Diego is with the lawyer. For the paperwork. Paperwork? What paperwork? Then it clicked. He had gone to have my name removed from the deed, because that house was still officially jointly owned by the two of us. I had done that. When Diego turned 25, I had said, Mijo, this house is yours too, and had registered the deed in both our names. But now, he wanted to remove that, to erase me, completely. I went up to my room. It was a small room. I had been staying here for years. I took an old box down from the closet. It contained photos, letters, and documents. While rummaging through them, I found an envelope. It was a thick, golden yellow envelope. When I saw that envelope, another memory came to mind. Diego was 18. He had finished high school and was about to start college. He had been accepted to Florida International University, but hadn't won a scholarship. That meant we would have to cover all the expenses. That summer, Miami was unbearably hot. I remember because we didn't have air conditioning at home. I couldn't afford it. We only had a small fan, and I had put it in Diego's room. I slept on the floor in the kitchen, thinking it would be cooler. But the university tuition, they wanted $45,000 for the first year. $45,000. My annual income at the time was $18,000, which I earned working 3 jobs. One night, I was sitting at the kitchen table doing the math. I was writing numbers on a piece of paper, adding, subtracting, but I just couldn't make it work. There was no way. I had no money, no savings in the bank. How was I going to pay? Diego came in. He looked upset. "Mom, maybe I can postpone college for a year. I'll work, save money." "No!" I shouted. I was surprised by my own voice. But no. Diego couldn't postpone college. It was his dream. It was his future. It was my reason for living. "Mom, but—" "Diego, I promised you. You will go to college. I'll find a way." "How will you find a way?" he asked, his voice cracking. "Mom, you already work 3 jobs. What else can you do?" I didn't know. But I would do something. I would definitely do something. The next day, I did something. Something that still makes me sick to my stomach when I think about it today. I mortgaged my house. That house was my everything. It was the only inheritance I had left when my father died. It was a small house, but it was mine. And I put it up as collateral. I went to the bank. The man in the loans department looked down at me from behind his desk. "Señora, if you mortgage this house and can't pay the debt, you will lose your home. Are you aware of that?" "I am," I said. My voice was trembling, but I was determined. "And your income is very low. It will be difficult for us to approve this loan." "Please," I said. "My son is going to college. He's very smart. He's going to be a doctor. Please." The man looked at me for a long time, then he nodded. "All right. But the interest rate will be high, and if you don't make a payment in 3 months, we'll take the house." "Okay," I said. "I accept." That golden envelope contained the loan documents, $45,000, a 15-year repayment plan, $800 a month. I'll never forget that night. When I told Diego the good news, he was overjoyed. He hugged me, kissed me, and said, "Mama, you're amazing. You're the best mom in the world." But I felt a sense of dread inside, because working 3 jobs wouldn't be enough anymore. I would have to work even harder. And I was getting older. I was 43. My back and knees hurt. But I had to do it. That year, I found a 4th job. I started working as a cashier at a supermarket on weekends. I worked 7 days a week, sometimes 16 hours a day. I slept 4, maybe 5 hours a day. I lost weight. My hair started falling out. Once I fainted from exhaustion at the hospital, but I didn't tell anyone, not even Diego, because he was happy. He was doing well at university. He had friends. His dream was coming true, and I would have given anything to see that. Now I was shaking as I held that envelope. That house. That damn house. I had mortgaged it for Diego. I had paid $800 every month for 15 years. I never missed a single day. I never complained. And I had finally paid off the mortgage. The house was mine. So what had I done? I had transferred the house to Diego's name. "Mijo, this house is ours," I had said. So what now? Now Diego was kicking me out of that house, demanding the keys, wanting my name removed from the deed. My eyes misted over. But this time, with anger. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was angry. Very angry. While gathering my things, I went into Diego's old room. The room was empty now. Vanessa had said it would be the guest room. The guest room. My son's room would be the guest room. I saw an old box on the top shelf of the closet. I took it down and opened it, and out came Diego's old school things. His notebooks, pencil case, old awards, and a photo. Diego's high school graduation photo. He was so happy that day. I was there with him. I was smiling, too. My dress was old, a little too big for me because I had bought it at a thrift store. But I was happy. Diego's success was my victory. Diego had written something on the back of that photo. I read it now. "Mom, you are my hero. Without you, I was nothing. I will love you forever. Diego, forever." How long had this forever lasted? 5 years? 10 years? Or until Vanessa showed up? As I held that photo, another memory came to mind, the most painful one. Diego was 29 years old. He had finished college and earned a business degree. He had started working at a good company. His salary was good. He was now standing on his own 2 feet. I was also feeling a little more relaxed. I was only working 2 jobs, the hospital and the supermarket. I was home in the evenings. I watched TV with Diego and listened to his work adventures. I was proud of him. One evening, he came home very excited. "Mom, there's someone I want to introduce you to." That was the first time I saw Vanessa. She was tall, slim, blonde. She was very beautiful, I have to admit. But there was a coldness in her eyes. When she looked at me, it was as if I wasn't there. "Hola," she said, but she didn't extend her hand. She just nodded her head in greeting. "Vanessa, this is my mom, Rosa," Diego said excitedly. "Hello," I said. "Nice to meet you. Diego has told me so much about you." She said simply. Then she turned to Diego. "Diego, I'm hungry. Shall we go out?" "But Mama made dinner," said Diego. "Let's eat here." Vanessa wrinkled her nose. "No, let's go out. I prefer different food." Different food. She meant that my food wasn't good enough. My beans, my rice, my chicken weren't different. Diego looked embarrassed. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." And so they left. They left me alone with the food on the table. I had prepared for 3, but that night I was the only one who ate, all by myself. Still, I convinced myself that Diego was happy. "Love," I said to myself. "That's how it is when you're in love. It's normal." Months passed. Vanessa started coming home often, but she never spoke to me. She only paid attention to Diego, and Diego was changing, more and more. One day, while I was making coffee in the kitchen, Vanessa walked in. "Rosa," she said. She still hadn't called me Señora Rosa. She just said Rosa. "Diego and I are planning to get married." My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. My son was getting married. That was happy news, right? "Qué bueno," I said. "I'm so happy." "When?" "In 6 months, and I want to tell you something. After we get married, Diego and I are going to live in this house." "Of course," I said. "We'll all live together." "No," she interrupted. "What I mean is, this house is a little small. Maybe you could move somewhere else?" At first, I didn't understand what she was saying. Was she trying to kick me out of my own home? "But this is my home," I said. "Yes, but it's Diego's home too. And as a newly married couple, we want privacy. You understand, don't you?" Did I understand? No, I didn't. This was my home. I had bought it. I had taken out the mortgage. I had paid off the debt. And now this woman wanted me to leave? I need to talk to Diego," I said. "We already talked," said Vanessa. "He agrees." She was lying. Diego wouldn't say such a thing. My son would never agree to kick me out of the house. But that night, when Diego came home, I asked him, "Mijo, Vanessa said I need to move somewhere else. Is that true?" Diego looked away. "Mama, look. Vanessa is right. We're newlyweds. We need some privacy. You'll be more comfortable in your own place." "But Diego, this is my home. I've lived here for 30 years. You grew up here. Don't you remember?" "I remember, Mama, but now I'm starting a family too, and Vanessa." "Vanessa. What? Whatever Vanessa wants, that's what will happen. Mama, please understand. Vanessa is going to be my wife. I have to make her happy." "What about me? Am I not your mother? Doesn't my happiness matter?" Diego raised his voice. He was yelling at me for the first time. "Mom, you didn't do everything. I worked too. I succeeded too. You think everything is thanks to you, but I put in the effort too. Those words stabbed my heart like a knife. You didn't do everything. Did I say I did everything? I only said I supported him, that I loved him. But now was that my fault? Okay, I said, my voice a whisper. Whatever you want. After that day, everything changed. Diego didn't talk to me like he used to. Vanessa started giving orders around the house. Rosa, clean this area. Rosa, cook the food like this. I was being treated like a maid in my own home. But I still tried to stay, because I loved Diego, because I hoped that maybe one day the old Diego would return. But he didn't. And finally, at that promotion party, he humiliated me in front of everyone and kicked me out of the house. Now, as I remembered those moments in the room, something inside me snapped. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't sad anymore. I was just angry, because I realized that Diego had never really loved me. He had only taken advantage of me. My sacrifices, my love, everything meant nothing to him. But they didn't know. He and Vanessa didn't know, because I still had a trump card up my sleeve, a trump card that would change everything. I took the golden envelope. I looked at the documents inside, and I smiled. Yes, this time I really smiled. Because Diego was wrong. That house wasn't just his house. And soon, very soon, he would learn this the hard way. I stayed at Rosario's house for 3 days. For 3 days, I didn't get a single call or message from Diego. Nothing. It was as if I had never existed. On the 4th day, I gathered my courage and sent him a message. Mijo, I have some things I need to pick up. When will you be home? 2 hours later, a reply came. Not from Diego, but from Vanessa. Rosa, Diego is very busy. You can pick up your things on Saturday between 10 and 11. Don't be late. 1 hour. He was giving me 1 hour to pack up my 30-year life. On Saturday morning, Rosario's husband Miguel drove me to the house. When we arrived at the door, Diego's car wasn't there, but Vanessa's white Mercedes was parked in front. I took out my key but couldn't open the door. The lock had been changed. I rang the bell. Once, twice, 3 times. Finally, Vanessa opened the door. She was wearing her robe, her hair was in a bun. That cold expression on her face again. You're late, she said. It's past 2 o'clock. I'm sorry, I said. There was traffic. Never mind, come in. But hurry up. I have an appointment. I went inside. Miguel came with me. It was a good thing he came with me, because without him, I would have collapsed right there and then. The house was unrecognizable. The walls had been repainted, the furniture replaced. My old, comfortable armchairs were gone, replaced by white, modern, cold sofas. The family photos on the walls had been taken down and replaced with abstract paintings. My Diego's birthday photos, the pictures we took on his first day of school, they were all gone. Where are the photos? I asked. We threw them away, Vanessa said nonchalantly. They were too old. We wanted a modern look. Threw them away. They had thrown my son's childhood memories in the trash. I went up to my room. Miguel followed me. The room was empty. My bed, my wardrobe, my dresser. Everything was gone. Where are my things? I yelled downstairs. In the basement, said Vanessa. We put them in boxes. Diego said they were unnecessary, but I was being nice and didn't throw them away. The basement. My 30 years of life had been crammed into boxes in the basement. Miguel and I went down to the basement. They were really there. 3 large cardboard boxes. Rosa, belongings, was written on them in black marker, as if I were an archived item in a warehouse. I opened the boxes. My clothes were crammed inside in a jumbled mess. Many were wrinkled, some torn. Clearly, they had been thrown in carelessly, in a hurry. In the bottom box, I found my personal belongings, photos, letters, Diego's first shoes, but the box was wet. The basement was damp, and since the box was on the floor, it had absorbed the moisture. Most of the photos were stained, some stuck together. I was holding Diego's first birthday photo in my hand. He was 1 year old. There was a small cake in front of him, a huge smile on his face. I was smiling next to him, too. But now that photo was wet, stained. It was as if they had wanted to erase that memory, that happiness. "Mama," Miguel said, his voice filled with uncontrollable anger. "This is a huge disrespect. You should tell Diego." But what could I say? Diego didn't want me anymore. My feelings, my memories, they meant nothing to him now. We started carrying the boxes to the car. Vanessa was upstairs laughing on the phone. I could hear her voice. "Yes, Carita, he's finally gone. Yes, our house is really ours now. You know, old people are so exhausting, but Diego finally understood. Yes, we'll celebrate tonight." Celebrate. They were celebrating my departure. As I picked up the last box, I looked up the stairs. Vanessa was still talking on the phone. She saw me but didn't even break her smile. She just looked at me for a moment, then turned away, as if I wasn't there. Miguel and I loaded the boxes into the car. 3 boxes. My 30-year life fit into 3 boxes. I looked at the building one last time. My home. My everything. But it wasn't mine anymore. I got into the car. When Miguel started the engine, my tears flowed like a river, but I didn't make a sound. I just cried silently. Because what could I do now? That night, at Rosario's house, I didn't dare open those boxes. I just looked at them. There they were, sitting in the corner of the room. My past. My everything. Rosario made me soup. "Mija, eat something. You need to be strong." But how could I be strong? I had lost everything, my home, my son, my honor. "Rosario," I said, my voice trembling. "Where did I go wrong? Why is Diego treating me like this?" Rosario held my hand. "Mija, you didn't do anything wrong. Some people are born ungrateful. And that Vanessa, that snake, she poisoned Diego. But I still felt guilty. Maybe I loved Diego too much. Maybe I gave him too much. Maybe. Maybe I was a burden to him. I couldn't sleep that night either. I just stared at the ceiling and thought. I thought a lot. The following week, I started looking for a job. My pension wasn't enough to pay the rent. Rosario said, "Stay with me. I won't charge you rent." But I couldn't accept that. I had to stand on my own 2 feet. I applied to a few places, but I was 53 years old. No one wanted to hire me. They said, "We'll call you," but they never did. 10 days later, I found a part-time job at a supermarket. I would work as a cashier 3 days a week, 6 hours a day. The pay was very low, but it was better than nothing. On my first day of work, I looked at my reflection in the mirror while putting on my uniform. I had aged. My hair had turned white, and deep lines had formed on my face. I had dark circles under my eyes. Was this me? Was this woman, 53 years old, alone, working as a cashier in a supermarket? Me? That day, a customer came to the register. She was a middle-aged woman. She had a son around 10 years old with her. "Mom, can I have this toy?" the child asked. The woman smiled. "Of course, sweetie. You got really good grades today. You deserve it." Watching that scene, my heart ached. I used to be like that. I used to treat Diego like that. I celebrated his every success, tried to fulfill his every wish. But now he didn't even want to see me. The days passed as I worked at the cash register. Every day was the same. Greet customers, smile, say thank you. But inside, there was a big, deep void. 2 weeks later, on a Sunday, Rosario said, "Mija, let's go to church." I hadn't been to church in years because I never had time. I was always working. But that day, when Rosario insisted, I agreed. Father Juan was preaching in the church. "God never abandons us," he said. "Even in our darkest moments, he is with us." But I felt abandoned, both by God and by my son. After the service, we went outside. People were chatting in the church garden. There were familiar faces, neighbors, old friends. And then I saw them, Diego and Vanessa. What were they doing here? Diego never came to church, never. I approached them. My heart was racing. Maybe Diego felt sorry when he saw me. Maybe he came to apologize. "Diego," I said, my voice trembling. Diego turned. He saw me, but there was no emotion on his face, just a cold stare. "Mom," he said, "what are you doing here?" I came with Rosario." "What are you doing here?" Vanessa interjected. "We came to see Father Juan. We want to have our wedding here." The wedding, of course. How could I have forgotten? "When is the wedding?" I asked. "In 2 months," said Diego. "But it will be a small ceremony, just close friends. So I wasn't invited. I'm not invited?" I asked, my voice cracking. Diego looked away. "Mom, look, Vanessa and I thought about it. This is our day, and we just don't want any tension." "Tension? I'm your mother. How could I create tension?" Vanessa let out a bitter laugh. "Rosa, please. We all know you always create drama. You constantly play the victim. We want a happy day. If you're there, you'll ruin it. Create drama? Play the victim? M.E.? "Diego," I said, now begging him. "Mijo, please. I'm your mother. This is your wedding. I have to be there." Diego looked at me for a long time. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw something in his eyes. Maybe remorse, maybe regret. But then Vanessa touched his arm, and that moment passed. "I'm sorry, Mom," Diego said, "but this is our decision." And he turned and walked with Vanessa toward the church building. They left me there, in the garden, all alone. The people around me were watching us. They had all seen, they had all heard. My son hadn't even invited me to his own wedding. The entire church congregation had witnessed it. Rosario came over to me. "Mija, let's go." But I couldn't move. My feet were glued to the ground, because I was beginning to understand the truth. Diego hadn't just kicked me out of the house. He had completely removed me from his life. I was no longer his mother. I was now nothing. That night, when I lay down in Rosario's house, I couldn't sleep again. I thought a lot. And I asked myself a question. Did I deserve this? Did I really deserve all this humiliation, this pain? The answer was clear. No, I didn't deserve this. The next day I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept thinking about Diego, the wedding, how they had rejected me. An elderly woman customer came to the cash register. She made her purchase, paid, and left. But as she was leaving, she dropped something. An envelope. "Señora," I called out, "you dropped your envelope." The woman turned around, picked up the envelope. "Oh, thank you, dear. This is my granddaughter's wedding invitation. I'm so excited. I'll be a grandmother at a wedding for the first time." She smiled and left. A grandmother, at a wedding, for the first time. And me? I wouldn't even be at my own son's wedding. At that moment, something inside me snapped. Something broke. Irreparably. Walking home after my shift, I made a decision. Enough was enough. Enough crying. Enough suffering. Enough silence. Did Diego want to see me as a victim? Fine. but I wouldn't be a victim anymore. I was going to fight. That night at Rosario's house, I opened those wet, stained boxes. I took out the documents, the photos, everything, one by one. And I found a document. The document that would change everything, the deed to the house. Diego's name was on it, and so was mine. Joint ownership. But there was another document, a will, my father's will. It said only one thing. This house belongs to my daughter, Rosa. After my death, it will belong solely and exclusively to Rosa. I had forgotten about this will. Years ago, before my father died, he had written it and had it notarized. It was a legal document. And more importantly, I hadn't revoked this will when I made Diego a co-owner of the house. I had forgotten. But now, this will was still valid. So legally. That house was still mine. Diego had no right to sell that house on his own or use it without my knowledge. My hands were shaking. I read the document over and over again. Yes, it was certain. It was a legal document and could ruin all of Diego's plans. But that wasn't all. There was something else. I remembered that golden envelope, the loan documents. When I read the documents more carefully, I noticed something. I had made Diego a co-owner of the house, yes, but I had taken out the loan solely in my name, because Diego was young at the time and had no credit history. That's why the bank had given me the loan. And I had paid it off. For 15 years, $800 every month. Including interest, I had paid over $144,000. This meant that I had paid for the vast majority of that house's value, while Diego had contributed nothing. I should have consulted a lawyer, but lawyers were expensive. I had no money. Then a name came to mind, Alejandro Ruiz, the son of an old friend of mine, who was a lawyer. Maybe he could help. The next day, I called Alejandro and explained the situation. He listened carefully and then said, "Rosa, this is a serious situation, but you're right. That house is legally yours. If you want, we can file a lawsuit about it." "But I don't have any money," I said. "How will I pay the lawyer's fees?" "Don't worry," Alejandro said. "I'm your friend's son, and this is a huge injustice. I'll help you. You can pay me after we win the case." For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Alejandro reviewed my documents, the will, the deed, the loan papers. "Rosa," he said, "you can win this case. But you have to be strong. Diego and Vanessa will fight. Are you ready?" "I'm ready," I said, and I meant it. There was no turning back now. A week later, Alejandro prepared the lawsuit documents and served Diego with notice. Diego called. His voice trembled with anger. "Mom, what are you doing?" "Are you suing me?" "Yes," I said calmly. "That house is mine, and you know it. That house is ours. You made the deed that way yourself." "No, Diego. That house was left to me by my father. I entrusted it to you. But you betrayed that trust." "You're crazy. Vanessa was right. You really are a sick woman." "Maybe," I said, "but that sick woman has a lawyer, and that lawyer will prove you have no right to that house." Diego hung up on me. But did you think that was the end of it? Number. The next day, Vanessa called. "Rosa," she said, her voice venomous, "you really are stupid. You sued us, but don't you know? WE have money. WE have lawyers. We'll crush you. You're just a poor old woman. You don't stand a chance." "Maybe," I said. "But I'm right. And sometimes, right trumps might." "Ha," said Vanessa. "Right? We'll see about that in court. But let me tell you this. We won't just take the house. We'll ruin your life. You'll never see Diego again. You won't be part of this family, and everyone will find out what a terrible mother you are." And she hung up. These threats should have scared me, but they didn't, because I had nothing left to lose. I had already lost Diego, my home, my honor, everything. But now, I was going to get them back. Every single one. 2 days later, the final straw happened. On my way home from work, I found a thick white envelope in the mailbox. It had gold-embossed letters that read, "Diego and Vanessa, our special day." It was a wedding invitation, but it wasn't addressed to me. The address was Rosario's, but the name wasn't mine. It said Rosario Martinez and family. So, I wasn't considered family. I opened the envelope. Inside was a beautiful, expensive invitation. There were photos of Diego and Vanessa. They were smiling, looking happy. And at the bottom, a note in small letters. A small, intimate ceremony. For invited guests only. I looked at the guest list. There were many names, friends, colleagues, distant relatives. But my name wasn't there. My name wasn't anywhere. And in that moment, that damn moment, everything became clear. Diego hadn't just rejected me. He had erased me. I was dead to him. I had been erased from his past. I was trembling with the invitation in my hand. But this time it was from anger. Enough. Enough of the pain I had endured, the tears I had shed, the forgiveness I had begged for. Rosario came in. She was surprised to see me like that. "Mija, what happened?" I showed her the invitation. "Look," I said. "Look what they've done." Rosario read the invitation. Her face turned bright red. This is unacceptable. How could they do this?" "They could," I said, "because I let them. Because I always kept quiet. Because I always waited, thinking maybe he'll change, maybe he'll regret it. But enough is enough." "What are you going to do?" Rosario asked. I looked at her. There were no tears in my eyes now, only determination. "I'm going to fight," I said, "and I'm going to win." That night, I lay in bed but didn't sleep. I made plans. I thought, I calculated. Diego and Vanessa thought I was weak, helpless, an easy victim, but they were wrong. Because I, Rosa Martinez, wasn't just a mother. I was a fighter. I had fought for my life for 30 years. I had worked 3 jobs, raised my son, created something from nothing. And now, they were trying to ignore me, but I would show them. I would show them that Rosa Martinez would not be defeated so easily. That invitation was their last mistake, because it gave me not only pain, but strength. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, and I had waited exactly 30 years. Now, it was time to serve. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I slept peacefully, because now I had a plan, and that plan would soon be put into action. Diego and Vanessa would be very happy at their wedding, but that happiness would be very short-lived, because I was preparing a surprise for them that they would never forget. The wedding day arrived. The ceremony was to be held at one of Miami's most luxurious hotels. Vanessa's family was wealthy, so they wanted a big show. A guest list of 300, a live orchestra, professional photographers, a 5-tier cake. Everything looked perfect. I was there too, but not as a guest. I had Alejandro to thank for that. He had brought me the court order in time, a signed, sealed, legal document. That document gave me the right to enter the hotel, because that document said Diego couldn't threaten me, couldn't make me leave. It was 6 o'clock. The ceremony would start at 7. I entered the hotel's grand hall. My breath caught in my throat. Everything was decorated with white roses. Hundreds of chairs were lined up under huge crystal chandeliers. At the front, there was an ornate arch. Diego and Vanessa would take their vows there. The guests had started to arrive. Expensive dresses, stylish suits, sparkling jewelry. Everyone was very elegant. I, on the other hand, was wearing a simple blue dress I had taken from Rosario's closet. It was an old dress, but it was clean. I had tied my hair back and hadn't worn any makeup, because there was another sparkle in my eyes: determination. I entered the hall and sat down in one of the back rows. No one noticed me. Everyone was engrossed in their own conversations. At 5 minutes to 7, the music started. Everyone stood up. Vanessa, in her white, magnificent wedding dress, was walking in on her father's arm. She was smiling. Everyone was applauding. Then I saw Diego. He looked so handsome in his black tuxedo. My son. He was standing under the arch. He had a happy expression on his face. He was looking at Vanessa with loving eyes. For a moment, just a brief moment, my heart ached, because he was my son. I had held him in my arms as a baby. I had watched his first steps, heard his first word, "Mama." But then I remembered that promotion party, that humiliation, that invitation, and my heart turned to stone. The priest began to speak. "Dear guests, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Diego and Vanessa." I waited. It wasn't time yet. The priest continued. "Marriage is a sacred bond. Family is built on love and loyalty. Family, love, loyalty. How ironic. If anyone objects to this marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." That moment had come. I stood up. "I object." My voice was loud and clear. The room instantly fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to me. Diego's face turned bright red. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I'm your mother, Diego, and I have things to say." Vanessa shouted. "Are you crazy? Security! Throw this woman out." 2 security guards came over, but Alejandro was there too. He immediately came up to me and showed me the court order. "This woman is exercising her legal right. We have a court order. You cannot remove her." The security guards hesitated. They looked at each other and backed away. I walked forward, toward the aisle, toward Diego and Vanessa. "Diego," I said, my voice echoing throughout the hall, "you didn't invite me to your wedding. You kicked me out of my home. You erased me from your family. But I'm here. I'm here to tell you and all these people the truth." "Mom, please," Diego said, his voice trembling. "Don't cause a scene here." "A scene?" "No, mijo, I'm not causing a scene. I'm just telling the truth." I took the envelopes out of my pocket, my father's will, the house deed, the mortgage papers. "These documents," I said, holding them up, "show who the real owner of the house you live in is." Diego's face turned pale. "What are you talking about? That house isn't yours, Diego." "It never was. That house was inherited from my father. I only entrusted it to you. But you betrayed that trust." Vanessa interrupted. "He's lying. That house is Diego's. The deed is registered in both their names." "Yes," I said, "but legally, I am the sole owner of that house, because that's what my father's will says. And I paid the mortgage on that house by myself for 15 years. Diego didn't contribute a single penny." Murmurs rose from the audience. People whispered to each other. "And what's more," I continued, "I gave everything I had for that house. I walked for miles on my bleeding feet so he could go to school. I worked 3 or 4 jobs. I gave up my health, my youth, everything. For Diego, because I loved him, because I believed in him." An elderly woman among the guests shouted, "Shame on you! Would anyone do that to their mother?" Diego's face flushed with embarrassment. But you're exaggerating everything. I worked too. I struggled too." "Yes, mijo," I said. "You worked, but on my back. I paid your college tuition. I bought your books, your clothes, everything. And what did you do? You kicked me out of the house. You didn't invite me to your wedding. You ignored me." My eyes filled with tears, but I didn't cry. I didn't want to look weak anymore. And now, I said, raising my voice, I have a court order. That house is mine, and I demand that Diego vacate that house immediately. The room erupted. Everyone started talking. Diego froze. Vanessa screamed, "No, no, this can't be. You can't do this." "I can," I said, "and I am." Vanessa lunged at me, but the guests held her back. "You're an old, pathetic woman," she yelled. "You're nothing, nothing at all." "Maybe," I said, "but I'm still Diego's mother, and that will never change." I looked at Diego. There was shock in his eyes, and maybe just a tiny bit of shame. "Mijo," I said, my voice softer this time, "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want what's mine. I want you to treat me fairly, to see me as a human being. That's all." Then I turned around and walked out of the hall. There were shouts and screams behind me, but I didn't care, because I had succeeded. I had finally stood up to them. The wedding was canceled, of course. Everyone dispersed. The next day, the entire Hispanic community in Miami was talking about it. "Did you hear? Diego Martinez kicked his mother out of the wedding. How shameful, so shameful. That woman gave her son everything." Diego and Vanessa were humiliated in front of the community. Their reputation was ruined. A week later, Alejandro called. "Rosa, Diego's lawyer made an offer. They want to give the house back to you. In exchange, they want you to drop the lawsuit." "I accept," I said. "I never wanted to sue anyway. I just wanted justice." 2 weeks later, the house was back in my name. Diego and Vanessa moved out. I don't know where they went. I don't care. Today, 6 months later, I'm home. M-Y home. I rearranged the living room. I hung the old family photos back on the walls. Diego's childhood photos, photos from his first day of school. Everything is in its place. Because I still love him. He's still my son. But I don't need him anymore. I don't expect anything from him anymore. I quit my job at the supermarket. Now I do small-scale catering from home. I cook traditional Latin dishes. Neighbors and friends place orders. I don't make a lot of money, but it's enough to get by. And most importantly, I'm happy. Rosario is still my biggest supporter. She comes over for coffee every Sunday. We laugh. We share memories. Yesterday we were sitting in the garden. The sun was shining. I was chatting with Rosario, coffee cup in hand. "Mija," said Rosario, "do you regret it? Suing Diego over that house?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "I don't regret it. I just defended my rights. And I regained my self-respect." "What about Diego? Do you miss him?" "Every day," I said, my voice trembling. "I miss him every day. But I don't let it destroy me anymore. I have to be strong. For myself." Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered it. "Hello?" After a moment of silence, a familiar voice. "Mama, it's Diego." My heart almost stopped. I hadn't heard from him in 6 months. "Diego," I said. "Mama, I'm sorry. You were right. I treated you terribly. I'm so sorry." My eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were tears of joy. "Mijo, I know you don't have to forgive me, but maybe we could have coffee sometime, just to talk?" I smiled. "Yes, mijo, of course." After hanging up, I looked at Rosario. She was smiling too. "Did you see that?" she said. He finally understood. "Yes," I said, "but it doesn't matter anymore. Because I've already found myself, whether Diego comes back or not. I am whole now." And that day, on that sunny afternoon, sipping my coffee in my garden, I realized I had won. Not just by getting my home back, but by getting myself back. I had regained my honor, my self-confidence, and my life. And that was more valuable than anything else. Rosa Martinez was no longer anyone's victim. I was a warrior. I was alive. And I was free.